What if the most dangerous Mustangs ever built weren't new? No turbos, no computers, just raw 1960s engineering, designed to crush quarter miles, break records, and bury modern muscle in tire smoke. These cars weren't made to last, they were made to dominate, then disappear. This is the side of Mustang history Ford doesn't always advertise. Prototype monsters built in secret. Factory-drag cars that ran 10s off the showroom floor. Race-tuned machines so wild, they had to be pulled from public sale. In the 1966, engineers weren't chasing efficiency, they were chasing fear. And what they created still terrifies modern performance cars today. No nostalgia, no exaggeration. These Mustangs were faster, louder, and deadlier than most cars on the road right now. Let's fire them up and see how the wildest Mustangs of the 60s still outgun the future. Top 1, 1965 Mustang A/FX 427 drag unit by Holman-Moody. The factory's untouchable monster. This wasn't just a Mustang, it was Ford's secret nuke, dropped straight onto the drag strip. In 1965, the muscle car wars weren't just marketing battles, they were real, and Ford wanted blood. Behind closed doors, they commissioned Holman-Moody, their elite NASCAR and drag racing partner, to build a Mustang that wouldn't just win, but humiliate everything else. Only 11 units of the A/FX 427 Mustangs were ever built. They looked like fastback Mustangs until you noticed the fiberglass body panels, deleted bumpers, lift-off hoods, and massive rear slicks. These were not for public roads. They were weapons of speed designed for NHRA match racing. Forget luxury. The interior was gutted. No soundproofing, no back seats, no creature comforts, just a single racing seat, lightweight gauges, a roll bar, and pure steel. But the soul of this car, the reason it's feared to this day, was under that flat hood. It ran the 427 cubic inch SOHC Cammer V8, an engine originally designed to crush the Chrysler 426 Hemi in NASCAR. This motor featured dual overhead cams, solid lifters, and a massive 7,000 RPM red line, unheard of in American V8s of the time. Output? Officially, it made 616 horsepower, but many dynoed closer to 650, plus HP and race trim. This wasn't brute force, it was surgical, violent engineering. With a curb weight under 3,000 pounds, these Mustangs could hit mid-10s in the quarter mile. In 1965, that's quicker than most modern Hellcats, ZL1S, or GT500S even today. They were so dominant and so feared that the NHRA had to rewrite class rules to slow them down. And Ford? They never sold a single one to civilians. These cars weren't made to be driven, they were made to kill. And yet, this wasn't even Ford's fastest road car, because next, a Mustang with a GT40 Le Mans engine, built for tire testing, that hit 170 and almost bankrupted Shelby. Top 2, 1967. Shelby GT500 Super Snake, the Le Mans Mustang Ford couldn't afford. What happens when you put a Le Mans winning race engine into a street Mustang? You get a machine so powerful, so uncontrollable, it made even Carroll Shelby walk away. It started with a tire test. Goodyear wanted to prove the durability of its new Thunderbolt rubber, so Shelby volunteered a 1967 GT500, but swapped the standard 428 for something far more savage, the 427 cubic inch FE side-oiler V8, the same engine that won Le Mans in the GT40. Only one Super Snake was ever built. From the outside, it looked like a regular GT500 fastback. Wimbledon white paint with blue stripes, elongated hood scoop, classic Shelby badging, but hidden under that hood was a monster. Inside, it kept the familiar Shelby layout: wood-rimmed steering wheel, black vinyl trim, but with upgraded gauges and reinforced suspension. Because this wasn't a cruiser, it was built to handle full throttle insanity. That 427 V8 produced 520 horsepower in Super Snake tune thanks to forged internals, solid lifters, a Holley 780 CFM carb, aluminum intake, and dry sump oiling. It revved harder, ran cooler, and pulled harder than anything else on American roads at the time. And during the Goodyear test, it hit 170.8 mph. Shelby planned to build 50 units, but the price? Nearly double a stock GT500. Dealers said no, Ford said no, and Shelby himself? He realized the world wasn't ready. The one and only Super Snake was parked, forgotten until collectors uncovered it decades later, now valued over $2,200,000, 0 cents. But what if Ford hadn't stopped? What if they greenlit a Mustang with Boss 429 power, Shelby suspension, and the interior of a luxury Mercury Cougar? Now, it almost happened, and it was called the Quarter Horse. Top 3, 1969 Mustang Boss 429. Quarter Horse prototype, Ford's muscle luxury mutant that was too wild to sell. What do you get when you combine the most powerful engine Ford ever built with the comfort of a Cougar and the bones of a Mustang Mach 1? You get the Quarter Horse, a muscle car so radical Ford tried to erase it. Built in total secrecy, the Quarter Horse was Ford's experimental vision of a high-speed GT Mustang with premium flair and unfiltered violence. Only 2 prototypes were built, one in Raven Black, one in Grabber Blue. It looked familiar, a Mach 1 silhouette. But the front end was from a Boss 429 to house the beast underneath. A lower stance, minimal badging, and special wheels hinted something wasn't right. Inside, total contrast. It borrowed heavily from the upscale Mercury Cougar XR7. Full wood-grain dash, leather-trimmed bucket seats, tilt steering, and XR7 gauges. It was part Shelby, part Lincoln, and all attitude. But then came the engine, the Boss 429 Blue Crescent V8, originally designed for NASCAR domination. This wasn't the detuned street version. It featured aluminum hemispherical heads, massive intake ports, a forged steel crankshaft, and high-lift solid cam. In pre-production spec, the engine pushed well over 500 horsepower, far beyond the conservative 375 HP rating Ford claimed. That power was sent through a close-ratio 4-speed, backed by drag pack components, 3.91 gears, and upgraded suspension geometry, lifted straight from Shelby GT engineering. Quarter Horse was brutally fast yet refined. A 150-plus minute luxury missile. Ford wanted to build 50, but it was too expensive, too confusing to market, and way too fast for its image. One car disappeared, the other survived, locked behind glass. But while the Quarter Horse was locked away, the next Mustang was let loose on drag strips across America, and it ran so fast it broke NHRA rule books in half. Top 4, 1968 Mustang 428 Cobra Jet Lightweight. NHRA Spec, the factory-built rule breaker. This Mustang didn't just race, it broke the rules, beat the clock, and forced the NHRA to rewrite its own rulebook. In early 1968, Ford had grown tired of watching Mopars dominate NHRA Superstock. So, behind closed doors, they built a secret weapon, the 428 Cobra Jet Lightweight Mustang. Only 50 units were produced to satisfy NHRA's minimum for factory class eligibility. These cars were pulled from standard Mustang fastbacks, but heavily modified before leaving the assembly line. From the outside, they looked almost stock. No stripes, no hood scoops, but the hood itself was fiberglass, held on with pins. The battery was relocated to the trunk. Rear seats were optional. Sound deadening? Gone. Even the emblems were minimalist. Inside, they were stripped for battle. Thin rubber mats replaced carpets. A basic dash, one bucket seat, and the most bare-bones interior you could legally sell. Why? Because every ounce counted. Under the hood sat the 428 Cobra Jet V8, an engine born from the 427 race program, but disguised as a street motor. Ford rated it at 335 horsepower, but dyno tests revealed the truth. It made 410 to 425 HP in factory trim. Forged pistons, beefed up rods, larger intake manifold, ram air induction. This thing was a drag strip assassin. With slicks and tuning, these lightweights could run 12.3-second quarter miles, faster than almost anything else in their NHRA class. They were so dominant, the NHRA immediately changed the rules to slow them down. But what came next wasn't just fast. It was street-legal violence, with a drag pack and Super Cobra Jet lurking underneath. Top 5. 1969 Mustang Mach 1 428 Super Cobra Jet drag pack. The street-legal sledgehammer Ford warned you about. This wasn't a muscle car, it was a rolling threat, a warning to anything dumb enough to pull up next to it. In 1969, Ford took the already aggressive Mach 1 fastback and turned it into something violent. The 428 Super Cobra Jet wasn't just an option, it was a declaration of war. To get it, buyers had to check two boxes: the 428 Cobra Jet with optional ram air and the infamous drag pack. This combo unlocked a different animal. Only about 3,180 units were built with the Super Cobra Jet plus drag pack configuration, making them rare even then. Visually, it kept the classic Mach 1 style, blacked out hood with scoop, hood pins, chin spoiler, and racing stripes. But beneath the surface, pure brutality. Inside, it still offered full comfort: wood-trimmed dash, high-back bucket seats, and a full-gauge cluster. But it was just a clever disguise. The real story was under the hood. The 428 Super Cobra Jet V8, specially built with stronger internals, oil cooler, and 3.91 or 4.3 gears. While Ford rated it at 335 HP for insurance purposes, real output was closer to 410-430 horsepower. The torque was monstrous, up to 450 lb-f, enough to roast tires through third gear. This Mach 1 could rip through the quarter mile in the low 13ths, completely stock. It was one of the quickest street Mustangs of the era, and still feared today. But not all Mustangs flexed muscle with big blocks. Some used precision and RPM, and came straight from the Trans Am battlefield. Top 6. 1965 Shelby GT350. Are the Mustang that beat Ferrari at its own game? This wasn't built for comfort, or even the road. It was built for one purpose only: to win. By 1965, Ford had a problem. The Mustang was popular, but not respected in racing. That's when Carroll Shelby stepped in. He took the standard fastback Mustang, stripped it to the bone, and turned it into a track weapon, the GT350R. Only 34 units were ever built, each one a hand-tuned race car, engineered specifically for SCCA B production dominance, and dominate it did. From the outside, it looked menacing. Wimbledon white with blue Le Mans stripes, plexiglass windows, wide rear flares, and a functional brake duct system. The lightweight fiberglass front apron and lack of front bumper screamed not street legal. Inside, nothing. No carpet, no radio, no insulation. Just a single racing seat, 5-point harness, a full roll cage, and an aircraft-style switch panel. Even the passenger seat was optional. But it was the engine that changed everything. The 289 Hypo V8, specially blueprinted by Shelby, made over 360 horsepower, far beyond the street GT300's rating. With a solid lifter camshaft, aluminum intake, Holley 715 CFM carburetor, and headers that screamed past 6,500 RPM with brutal urgency. And the weight? Just 2,550 pounds. That gave it a power-to-swank ratio that challenged European exotics: Ferraris, Jaguars, Corvettes. At Riverside, Laguna Seca, and Sebring, the GT305R didn't compete. It crushed. In its debut season, the GT350R won every single race it entered in SCCA production. No Mustang before or since has earned that level of track dominance. But not every Mustang was a race car. Some hid monstrous speed in luxury suits, ones you could actually rent. Top 7, 1970 Mustang Boss 3.2, the Trans Am assassin Ford unleashed on the streets. This Mustang didn't rely on brute force, it relied on precision. It didn't just outrun its rivals, it outmaneuvered them. Born from the fire of sexy Trans Am racing, the 1970 Boss 3.2 wasn't built for drag strips, it was bred to dominate corners. Ford created it to take down Chevrolet's Camaro Z/28, and it wasn't shy about it. Only 7,013 units were produced in 1970. The final and most refined version. From the outside, it was all business. Blackout hood treatment, front and rear spoilers, aggressive hockey stick stripes, optional shaker scoop, and Magnum 500 wheels. A road course warrior disguised as a street machine. Inside, it wasn't stripped like a Shelby R model, but it stayed focused. High back buckets, competition style Astro gauges, Hurst shifter, an optional tach and rev limiter. Just enough comfort to be civil, but every bit of it tuned for war. Under the hood sat the legendary Boss, 3.2 V8, a hybrid of the 310 Windsor block and Cleveland heads. With forged pistons, solid lifters, high drop ports, and a 780 CFM Holly carb, it screamed past 6,500 RPM, delivering 290 HP officially, but real output hovered around 340, 360 HP. Matched with a close ratio 4-speed and 3.91 rear gears, the Boss 302 was built to rev, corner, and strike with surgical precision. It dominated Trans Am. It shamed bigger engines on tight tracks. And even today, it remains one of the best handling Mustangs ever built, factory or otherwise. But what if you couldn't afford a Boss? What if you could just rent one at the airport and still run the quarter mile in under 14 seconds? Top 8, 1966 Shelby GT350H Rent-A-Racer, the Shelby you could take home for the weekend. You could pick it up at the airport and run 13S by nightfall. In 1966, Ford and Shelby teamed up with Hertz to offer something outrageous. A rental Mustang that was track-ready. It was called the GT350H, and it was no gimmick. Shelby dropped in the exact same K-Krog 289 Hypo V8 used in the full-fledged GT350. This high-driving small block pumped out 306 horsepower thanks to solid lifters, aluminum intake, free-throwing headers, and a Holley 4WL carburetor. That was more than enough to give unsuspecting renters a real taste of racing. Roughly 1,001 units were built. Most wore black with gold Le Mans stripes, a combination that would become Shelby legend. A few were painted in rare red, blue, white, or green, but all came with side scoops, hood pins, and dual exhausts that let the engine growl like a proper race car. Inside, it retained full interior trim, vinyl bucket seats, console, and Shelby badging. Most came with automatic transmissions to broaden rental appeal, but the performance was still wild. That's why renters took them straight to drag strips. Some swapped engines into their own cars, then returned the GT300 and found something was missing something. Others raced them into the ground. Hertz panicked, but the legend was already written. Even today, a clean GT350H will run mid-13S in the quarter mile, untouched. For many, it was their first and last chance to feel Shelby speed without ever owning one. But what if a Mustang wasn't built to race, or even for the road? What if it was created to survive the heat, altitude, and thin air of the Southwest desert, with a big block quietly waiting under the hood? Top 9, 1967 Mustang High Country Special 390. The Desert Sleeper Ford never advertised. You'd never expect it in Aspen Gold, but under the hood, this Mustang could bury you in torque. In 1967, Ford launched a regional special edition called the High Country Special, designed specifically for high-altitude markets like Colorado, Wyoming, and even northern Mexico. Most came with inline 6s or small V8s, but a few slipped out with a hidden monster, the 390 cubic inch FE Big Block. Only 416 units of the High Country Special were produced in 1967, and just a handful carried the 390. Externally, it wore aspen gold, columbine blue, or timberline green paint, colors exclusive to this trim, alongside a special badge on the rear fender. At first glance, it looked tame. But under that elegant skin was Ford's proven 390 FE V8, making 320 horsepower and 427 lb-hf of torque, nearly equal to some 428 Cobra jets. Mated to a Ford Darrell carb, an optional C6 automatic or top-loader 4-speed, it could haul the thin mountain air and still torch a stoplight. The interior was standard Mustang fare: vinyl bucket seats, deluxe trim, wood grain dash. But buyers weren't here for flash, they were here for hidden force. With gearing and torque perfectly suited for high elevations, the 390 High Country was a sleeper. Most people assumed it was just another special edition Mustang, until it left them behind in a haze of tire smoke. Today, it's one of the rarest performance Mustangs ever made, and nearly forgotten outside of collector circles. But for our final pick, we're going even deeper underground, because some of the fastest Mustangs of the 60s weren't optioned by Ford. They were stripped of everything, right down to the radio. On purpose. Top 10 1969 Mustang SportsRoof 351 Windsor Sleeper Spec, the everyday Mustang that hunted Camaros in silence. No stripes, no spoilers, no warnings. The Mustang didn't look fast, until it vanished down the street. By 1969, the Mustang lineup was overflowing with big names. Mach 1S, Bosses, Shelbys, but beneath all the noise was a quiet killer, the SportsRoof 351 Windsor, in base trim. No badges, no fame, just raw, unfiltered street ability. Ford produced over 72,000 SportsRoof Mustangs in 1969, but only a small percentage came equipped with a 351 cubic inch Windsor V8, a lightweight small block that could be ordered with a 4-barrel carb, dual exhaust, and optional 4-speed top-loader. From the outside, it looked like a daily driver. Thin white walls, hubcaps, subtle fastback styling. But savvy buyers knew better. Add dealer gear, stalled gears, headers, and slicks, and this thing would tear through 14-second quarter miles without a single decal. Inside, basic vinyl buckets, no tack, AM radio. But that stripped-down feel was part of its charm. It meant less weight and more bite. This was the Mustang you bought when you didn't want attention. Only results. While others paid for Shelbys and Bosses, street racers quietly scooped these up and turned them into legends. Today, finding a factory 351W SportsRoof in original sleeper trim is nearly impossible. Most were raced, wrecked, or cloned into Mach 1S. This was the Mustang Ford never bragged about, but for those who knew, it was the one that beat you before you even realized the light had turned green. These 1960s Mustangs weren't just fast for their time, they were fast, period. Whether it was a factory-built drag car, a luxury sleeper, or a rent-a-racer with real bite, each of these machines proved that Detroit muscle could still put up a fight, even today. Which one surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you love stories about forgotten muscle, sleeper legends, and untold car history, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching and supporting Muscle Cars Revolution, where classic horsepower still rules the road. Stay loud, stay fast, and stay tuned.